The night was alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and the faint hum of music in the background. But at one table in the corner of the elegant restaurant, a love story was quietly unfolding, a story that would test the strength of trust, the weight of choices, and the power of forgiveness. David leaned close to Emily, his hand resting gently on hers. His voice was soft, almost a whisper, yet filled with a tenderness that made her smile in a way she hadn't in months. Emily, dressed in a stunning red gown, felt her heart flutter, as though she were falling in love for the very first time. To any stranger watching, they looked like the perfect couple, two people deeply connected, lost in their own little world. But just a few feet away, a waitress named Sarah stood frozen, holding a plate she was meant to deliver. Her eyes didn't leave David. The world around her blurred, because the man she was staring at wasn't just any customer. He was the man who once promised her forever. The man who had walked out of her life without closure, leaving her heart shattered. For months, Sarah had buried the pain, convincing herself that love was a cruel illusion. And yet, here he was, laughing, whispering, touching another woman's hand with the same warmth he once gave her. A flood of memories rushed through her mind, late-night talks, broken dreams, and the moment he chose ambition over their future together. Emily, unaware of Sarah's silent turmoil, giggled at David's words. But she noticed something odd in the waitress's eyes when their gazes met, a storm of anger and hurt, quickly masked by a professional smile. It unsettled her. For the first time that evening, she wondered if the happiness she felt with David was built on fragile ground. The night carried on, but Emily couldn't shake the heaviness in the air. Later, when David excused himself to take a phone call, Sarah approached Emily quietly. Her hands trembled as she set down the plates, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "Be careful with him. Not every story ends the way you think it will." Emily was startled. "What do you mean?" she asked, her heart pounding. Sarah hesitated, caught between bitterness and compassion. Finally, she said, "Just know that the promises he makes, he's made them before." Then she walked away, leaving Emily shaken. When David returned, Emily forced a smile, but questions burned in her mind. Who was that woman to him? Why did her warning feel so painfully real? She didn't confront him immediately, but a seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next weeks, Emily's doubts grew. She noticed how David sometimes avoided eye contact when she asked about his past. She noticed how his phone calls often pulled him away, leaving her dinners unfinished. And in the silence of her thoughts, Sarah's words echoed louder and louder. Finally, Emily decided she couldn't live with uncertainty. She sought Sarah out, meeting her after her shift ended one evening. What unfolded was an emotional storm. Two women sitting across from each other, sharing stories about the same man. Sarah told Emily about the years she spent loving David, the sacrifices she made, and how he left when his career demanded more than his heart could give. Emily listened, torn between heartbreak and disbelief. She wanted to defend him, but she couldn't ignore the truth etched in Sarah's trembling voice. That night, Emily confronted David. For the first time, he didn't have smooth words or charming smiles. He broke down, admitting his mistakes, his fear of commitment, his selfishness, his inability to face the damage he left behind. He confessed that meeting Emily was his second chance, but he had been too much of a coward to confront the past. It was a raw, painful moment. Emily's heart ached, not only for herself but also for Sarah, who had carried wounds he never tried to heal. Emily realized love couldn't thrive in shadows. It needed honesty, accountability, and courage. The days that followed were heavy with decisions. David tried to mend what was broken, but Emily knew the truth. Trust once fractured is not easily rebuilt. She chose to walk away, not out of anger, but out of strength. She realized her worth wasn't defined by a man's promises, but by the love she gave herself. Sarah, too, found closure in finally being seen, in knowing her pain had meaning because it helped another woman make a choice she once wished she had made sooner. The two women, once strangers connected by heartbreak, grew into unexpected friends. They shared stories, tears, and laughter, healing together in ways David never could have offered. Months later, Emily stood in the same restaurant again, not as a woman in doubt, but as a woman who had rediscovered her power. She smiled at the memory of that night, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because sometimes, the people who break us are the very ones who lead us back to ourselves. And as she left, she carried a lesson she would never forget. Love is not about clinging to someone's promises. Love is about standing tall, choosing honesty, and never settling for less than the respect and truth you deserve. Message: the story reminds us that heartbreak and betrayal are painful, but they can also be powerful turning points. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most become the reason we find our strength. And when we choose self-respect over empty promises, we don't just survive, we thrive.